Hey gang, I just finished watching X-Men 97 Season 1, Episode 10, Tolerance is Extinction, Part 3, and here are my thoughts. Coming in hot. This episode picks up almost immediately where the previous episode ended. Well, not quite immediately. We seem to skip over a portion where like Rogue and Sunspot are like, hey, remember when we were trying to help Magneto wipe out all of humanity and most of humankind? Never mind, we're good now. And everybody's like, yeah, we're good. You're helping now. They're just there like nothing. Like we weren't just at each other's throats 10 seconds ago. Whatever. And its episodes split pretty much into two sections. One is where Professor X is in Magneto's mind. At first, as he takes control of Magneto's abilities to try and save the planet. And then following that, he has to rebuild Magneto's psyche. This is a way to kind of like, in a literal sense, work through Magneto's trauma. This section of the episode is more philosophical in nature and deals with the dueling ideologies of Magneto and Professor X. The other one is your more traditional big bad guy fight. Phoenix shows up and takes out Sinister and then conveniently leaves right when she'd be the most useful. Bastion upgrades himself with Cable's arm. He's the vision of the future or something. And then goes to Asteroid M. He's going to go there to crash it and wipe out everybody. Oh, similar to what Magneto was doing. Interesting how they're basically the same character. I'm bummed inside and I need to make it everybody else's problem. So there's the obvious cool stuff in this episode. The fight with Bastion is cool. It's animated beautifully. Everybody's doing cool stuff. It requires all the X-Men to work together, which is a fantastic thing to do in the finale. There's also the requisite emotional beats. The one that affected me the most is when Cyclops is talking to the catatonic Wolverine and he tells him, do what you do best, heal, which is a great pivot on the classic Wolverine line. I'm the best I am at what I do, but what I do isn't very nice, which focuses on Wolverine's capacity for violence. And this focuses on the other aspect of Wolverine. The other thing that he's good at that we don't focus on enough is that he heals. And it's a core part of the character. And I think it's something the show has proven that it can do really well, which is sum up a character in a cool way and a neat little kernel, a neat little like one line, one or two lines. There's also a butt ton of cameos. Who do we see? Dang. We see Captain America. We see Iron Man. We see T'Challa, Black Panther. We see Doctor Strange. We see Peter Parker and Mary Jane from the 90s Spider-Man cartoon. We see Daredevil. We see Cloak and Dagger. That's the deepest cut. Somebody working on the show is a big Cloak and Dagger fan because you had to go out of your way to make that one happen. I don't think they ever showed up in the 90s show, not Spider-Man or anything. I also appreciate the energy this finale took to kind of flesh out Professor X's perspective and put it against Magneto's and lightly interrogate Magneto's perspective. I continue to be frustrated with how this show treats Magneto with kid gloves, especially since he is genocidal. Like the show treats Magneto like a pissy teenager that needs to be gentle parented, even though he's actively trying to do an ethnic cleansing. You think a show and a franchise so focused on the suffering of marginalized people might be a little bit more confrontational with the ethnic cleansing guy. It's weird. So the episode ends with Asteroid M crashing to Earth thanks to the efforts of Bastion and inadvertently the president being a dumbass and firing missiles at the thing. That was the most believable part of the episode. President dumbass. So all the X-Men have to band together and potentially sacrifice their lives to stop this from happening. And it's just a shame that there were no other powered individuals on the planet that could help them. It's not like we saw a bunch of them in the episode. And we even see some of them looking at the asteroid being like, damn, that's a shame. We see members of the Avengers looking at the asteroid being like, oh, geez, wish we could do something. Where's Earth's mightiest heroes when you need them, And granted, this is an issue of pretty much all superhero fiction. Why doesn't Superman just fly into Gotham City and help Batman clean it up? Because then Batman wouldn't have stories, right? This becomes more glaring when it's the crux of a philosophical discussion. The core of our episode is Professor X trying to articulate his feelings of empathy and inclusiveness to Magneto and use that to help rebuild Magneto so that he can be the one that ends up saving the day, using his magnetic powers to pull Asteroid M up. I'll get to the very final moments of the episode in a minute. Bear with me. And Professor X's argument is that we can all coexist. We can all work together and we're all better for it, which is true. But you put that in contrast with Captain America earlier in the season being like, my hands are tied. I can't help the X-Men. I can't help mutants after Genosha was destroyed. And in an episode like this, where a global crisis is happening and the Avengers aren't able to show up, which narratively they shouldn't. It's the X-Men show. They should save the day. The problem is, in this case, it almost actively undermines the themes of this episode and the season as a whole. Because Superman not helping Batman fight Joker, or to keep it in universe, Iron Man not showing up to help Spider-Man face Venom, is different than the Avengers not helping the X-Men in this instance. Because the X-Men represent something different narratively, specifically in this show. This episode goes to great lengths to emphasize the importance of inclusion cohesion and working together. To the degree that Cyclops even reaches out and tries to help save Bastion, because the X-Men love collecting genocidal maniacs. They're like Pokemon, gotta catch them all. I even love that symbolism, and that's pure X-Men stuff right there, right? You reach out even to the people that hate you. I don't know if Bastion's the best example of somebody to reach out to, but sure, I appreciate the intent. Wouldn't it be more powerful if in the X-Men's darkest moment, where it feels like all is lost, the Avengers or some other human contingent show up, not to save the day for them, but to help them out? And Professor X can point to that, and the show can point to that and be like, see, coexistence can happen. Coexistence is important. Just this show, we're not even going to get into the X-Men franchise as a whole, but just this show has so many examples of humanity going out of their way to wipe out mutants that it's easy for fans to look and be like, yeah, Magneto's right, because the show's written to make Magneto look right. And at the last second, we're trying to say, but actually, hey, wouldn't it be great if we could all live together? But there's no concrete example of that. I know this probably feels like, DJ, you're nitpicking or whatever, but I think it's an example of how this show has lofty goals thematically that it never quite achieves. All that to get to the finale. Magneto is pulling Asteroid M up back into space, and then it vanishes. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. And then Forge is looking at a board of a bunch of mutants, pictures of a bunch of mutants. It's a call back to the days of future past, like wanted board, like dead, missing, presumed dead, including our core X cast that vanished on Asteroid M. And then Bishop shows up and he reveals they've been dragged through time. So we've got a contingent back in the past. I think it was 3000 BC, where we run into a young Apocalypse. And then at least Scott and Jean are pulled into the far future, where they interact with a young Nathan who's being raised by Ascani, which is true to the comics. And then the very, very final shot after the credits is a hunched over being in the ruins of Genosha. And it's Apocalypse. It's clearly Apocalypse, present day Apocalypse, and he pulls out Gambit's card and he's like, so much death, which heavily implies that he will be resurrecting Gambit as his next horseman of death, just like Archangel was previously. And even though I have my issues with this show, if they're building to a version of the Age of Apocalypse story, am I going to be into that? Yeah, man. Yeah, I probably am. Did I like the season of television? Not as much as everybody else. I truly think a lot of what powered this show was the nostalgia around it. If you just made this exact same show, but not connected it to the X-Men 90s cartoon, nobody would have cared. To the degree that one of the biggest moments of the season, the moment everybody talks about, is the death of Gambit, and he had maybe like 3 lines prior to that moment. So people aren't reacting so much to the Gambit we're introduced to in this season of television so much as their memories of Gambit or their memories of being a kid watching Gambit. But again, it was probably a smart choice. Would people be talking about, if this was a brand new X-Men show, would people be talking about the same? No, the reason there's so much buzz around it is people excited to revisit this show from their youth. So as far as a marketing business decision, it was absolutely the right call. It's just something that interests me less. But there you go. That was the X-Men 97 season finale. We will definitely be getting a season 2. Who knows when, but we can talk about that more when it arrives. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of this finale and the first season of X-Men 97 as a whole. Let me know what you would like to see in season 2. Please like and subscribe and share and all those things. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.